Right guys, hope you all had a great weekend. I spent actually most of mine with family, building, gardening, all of that kind of grown-up stuff. Before the Division 2 launched, I actually started a campaign of videos here on the channel speculating on what we might expect from the location, game modes, all of that sort of stuff. I actually really enjoy doing it. I like speculating on future stuff. The new Skyscraper mode, I believe, and others as well, are currently in development, and today I wanted to not speculate but give what I believe are ideas for the Skyscraper mode it will need in order to thrive and not become another Kenley College, which is obviously the worrying thing. Please get involved yourselves, leave your own ideas in the comments below, drop a like, and join me on Patreon if you wish as well. With that said, let's begin. So the first question I thought about asking when I was writing this script or making this video essentially is, what do we know so far? And I guess the answer to that is not a lot, really. About 1 month ago, there was a significant amount of data mined information detailing everything about the next 3 seasons, the story, the lore, and the rest. But what really caught my attention and what caused the devs to speak out was the section about the Skyscraper mode. According to the data mine, it said that Calso tells us there's a skyscraper that needs to be secured and we need to get in there and secure it floor by floor. There's several safe floors in the building. We can leave the building when we are on that floor, and Castle will be able to drop us back to that floor whenever we want to continue. But from one point on, there will be no safe floors for us to save and kind of like become a checkpoint. For example, the Skyscraper mode will have, say, 100 floors. We don't know that for a fact yet, but let's just give that as an example. Every 10 floors there'll be a safe floor for us to take a break, go back to the open world and do something else if we want to, and then we can load back to this floor to continue our journey. If we fail, we could either return from this checkpoint or we may need to start over, and after like the, I don't know, 80th floor perhaps, there'll be no checkpoints for us and it's, you know, straight to the top, and I presume it's going to be on probably a weekly cycle. So if you get to, say, level 80 in the first day, you then have that checkpoint for a week perhaps, and then it would reset. I don't know that for sure yet, but that's what I suspect. And when I first read about this, my initial reaction was that this sounded similar to the Resistance game mode. Actually one of my favourite game modes from the Division. Some people akin to this to Underground due to its possibly procedurally generated rooms, but I thought it was more kind of Resistance because it felt more like Horde mode type situation, just vertical, rather than the Resistance mode. But Chris Gansler immediately quashed any speculation that this new mode would resemble anything from the past, saying, "We also wanted to confirm that we are indeed working on more content outside of upcoming seasons, and that one of the current ideas is to add a PvE mode that is meant to scratch the replayability itch. They are still in the early stages of development and it is not set for release soon. In addition, while we understand the comparisons that are being made to Underground, we want to clarify that we don't intend to simply copy game modes from the first game, and that this new mode will not be Underground 2.0 and will have a unique and new take on this topic." So that's good news. I don't want recycled stuff, but it could learn a lot from those modes. So all we really know so far, at least from the leaks, is there's floors or levels, and every so many levels or floors will be a safe area where you progress and it causes checkpoints and be saved. At some point, presumably above a certain amount of levels, there will no longer be checkpoints, and it's basically all the way to the top. With that in mind, what does Skyscraper need to do in order for this PvE mode not to fail like Kenley College? And I think there's a list of things. I didn't want to make that sound negative because I want this to be quite a positive video, but I think there's a few things that we really need to consider, or the devs really need to consider when making this mode, which again, they're making at the moment. So the first thing, in my opinion, is loot and rewards. Now, when Kenley College launched, it didn't have the mastery system. Not that that's made any difference. The mastery system was a time trial system that gave you more rewards the faster you completed the mission, ranked by gold, silver and bronze. And the reason I'm telling you that, guys, is because there'll be a lot of people that watch this video that probably don't even play or hasn't played Kenley College, or certainly hasn't played it for a very long time, and I'm one of those people. The problem was more of the same rewards. It just doesn't work. No one wants to run Kenley College to get more rainbow loot or more bad rolls. Once you got the diamond back, it was pretty much GG at that point. More only works when the loot is actually what players want, but I'd go ahead and encourage the devs to move away from this idea of just giving more for this new mode. Skyscraper needs to come with new gear, new weapons, items, with new named exclusives. I think personally the drop chance of such stuff should be lowered, because right now, if you just take a look at, say, Season 2 model, most people will have all of the new gear in a couple of weeks just roaming around the world. That's not even from season drops. And if that is a similar thing that happens with this mode, people will get all the stuff within a week and they're just going to stop playing. As this is a PvE activity and no one is being forced into the Dark Zone or any PvP stuff, having exclusive items tied to this activity, I think, will encourage more and more people to grind the activity. Unlike Kenley College, Skyscraper has to reward players, give them an incentive to keep playing, because just having something that looks great, it's not going to keep people playing. Need I remind you of Survival? When this was introduced, it was amazing. It still is an amazing piece of content, but if you remember back to the Division 1, a lot of people quickly stopped playing because the rewards were so poor compared to the time invested, and there was nothing unique about the rewards either. On the same vein, rewards have to be balanced better than Resistance was. If it's more efficient to farm levels 1 to 20 than going any levels higher, people will just do that. My recommendation would be to tie exclusive named items to only drop after certain levels. That way, you'd have no choice but to grind to, say, level 50 if you wanted that named item, and then it would have a low drop chance, and that should avoid people just doing the 1 to 20 or 1 to 10 experience. You could perhaps tie an exclusive exotic or apparel or other items to the completion of the mode. There needs to be a way to reward the casual audience, you know, maybe that 1 to 50 experience if there is 100 levels, and then the hardcore audience, which is maybe that 70 to 100 tiers. There is so much they could do with the rewards here. You could have cosmetic challenges, named item challenges, commendations, maybe a couple of new exotics, and maybe challenge. You could have a challenge for one of them. You could have time trial modifier with scaling rewards and increased chance at exclusive for those people who really want to kind of get through it as quickly as possible and maybe get rewarded for that. They could have exclusive skins, backpack trophies, patches, exclusive items like gears, weapons, named items, and exotics. There's just so much stuff they could do, and these are just some of the things that could keep players grinding the activity. Next up, we've got level design. Now, I'm pretty sure the levels are not going to be procedurally generated like Underground was, so let's just kind of forget about that for now. I think Skyscraper needs to rely less on puzzles. In fact, I'd go as far to say that puzzles, for me, initially I like the idea of puzzles, and I kind of like them when it comes to the hunters, but when it comes to Kenley College, it's just frustrating. So for me, I would pretty much remove puzzles from any kind of experience like that. And actually, I'll just make it more about overcoming NPCs, very similar to Resistance. It would be great if the levels changed over time, or every time you did the activity, but it's likely they won't. So maybe having different paths to give players the choice. Let's say you could go this way or this way, right? This way is your normal way, or you could go that way. And if you went that way, you could maybe skip a level or two, but that way is significantly harder. This could give players that kind of risk-reward option, especially if between every 10 levels, if you go down and you reset back to your checkpoint, you lose all the rewards you may have picked up over those levels. You could have levels where it's been flooded, for example, slowing players' movement, which could offer a unique mechanic we don't already have. Fire is something used in the game widely. It's used in the raid a lot recently, so having this element could be great, meaning players would have to, you know, maybe adapt their build for that level, speccing into, say, hazard protection, for example. Maybe one level you could have a mounted heavy weapon, forcing the player to spec into a tank build to be successful. This type of variety, it could encourage players to engage in other activities outside of Skyscraper as well, because let's say you require Foundry Bulwark or another form of tank build to do level 50, but you don't have one. You'd be forced to grind other activities to get the gear you need in order to progress. It should never be a requirement, of course. You shouldn't be forced to have to go and do other stuff. You shouldn't have to grind that foundry build or that tank build or that DPS build to get past something. But if you did, it would make the experience far easier than if you had not. And just some other ideas: difficulty, just like Resistance, Skyscraper has to scale difficulty depending on levels. So say there's 100 levels. Levels 1 to 10 is normal, 10 to 30 is hard, 30 to 70 is challenging, 70 to 90 is heroic, and then 90 to 100 is legendary difficulty. What the devs cannot do is just let you pick a difficulty at the start for the whole 100 levels, and I'm pretty sure they're not going to do that. Balancing for group and solo. One of the big problems the devs have suffered with when it comes to activities is not balancing those for both group and solo play. Don't get me wrong, almost everything in the game is doable solo, but the difference between solo and group play is worlds apart, and that's because the game has not been scaled properly to give both parties the same experience. Skyscraper has to have a balance for both. One thing the devs will never be able to balance is NPC target acquisition, because in a group, the NPCs focus on one person and they get shot by 3 other people. In solo, NPCs are only going to focus on that one person. Reducing incoming damage, reducing NPC health, and the amount of NPCs that spawn to match that of a group, if you are playing solo, will be the best they can do, and they have to do it. There's no way they can just make this group only. Again, these are just a few ideas. You could even have a new currency that allows you to open a crate at the, every safe area, or say every 30 levels. That gives you a chance at exclusive stuff. There's so much potential with this new mode, and if the devs are serious about satisfying that replayable itch, and I think that itch is definitely present, it's certainly present for me, they have to ensure it's something players will want to continue playing more than just a couple of times and then drop it. It's clear from Chris Gansler's response and Yannick's more recently that the devs are working on not just Skyscraper, but other content for the game, and this is actually outside of seasons. I guess the bad news about the Skyscraper news is I don't suspect we will see this until March next year, when we will likely get the Year 3 DLC. We might get more info on that with the Ubisoft Forward this Saturday, the 12th of July, if you believe the reports. And I guess the other bad thing is that if that does happen, it's likely going to be behind a paywall. I hope it's not, because unfortunately, I think that will split the player base even more, and I don't think there's enough player base to really do that. But it's likely going to happen. For today's video, guys, thanks very much for sticking around until the end. Thanks very much for all of your support. We do have Wednesday's State of the Game, where they're going to show off the new Phoenix Down apparel event. So if you want to see the new Phoenix Down apparel, then make sure you've got notifications turned on. And you'll only be able to do that if you're subscribed. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Until the next one, guys, epic out.